The massive Zephyrian colony ship Harmony's Dream shuddered violently as another explosion rocked its hull. Emergency lights flickered red throughout the corridors while terrified civilians pressed against the walls. Captain Veltar's 4. Arms worked frantically across his control panel, but the readings were all wrong. The main engines were completely dead, and 3 hull breaches were venting precious atmosphere into space. Systems are failing across all decks, reported his first officer, her voice trembling with fear. We have maybe 6 hours before life support completely shuts down. Veltar looked out at the stars through the cracked viewport. His ship carried 50,000 souls, families, children, elderly Zephyrians who had never known war. They were peaceful traders and farmers, not warriors. They had no weapons, no shields, just hope and the belief that someone would answer their call for help. Send the distress signal on all frequencies, Veltar ordered. Include our position, our situation, and the number of civilians aboard. Someone from the Galactic Peacekeeping Union will hear us. The message went out across space, a desperate plea echoing through the void. Zephyrians waited, watching their sensors for any sign of rescue ships. But space remained empty and cold. Light years away, the human warship Iron Fist cut through space like a blade. Its black hull was scarred from countless battles, and its weapon systems could crack planets. This was the flagship of humanity's Deathworlder fleet, ships that struck fear into the hearts of every alien species in the galaxy. On the bridge, Admiral Park Min-ho sat in his command chair, reviewing tactical reports. His crew moved with military precision around him. These were humans who had grown up on Earth, a world so dangerous that other species called it a death world. They had survived gravity that would crush most aliens, whether that could kill in minutes, and predators that hunted in the dark. Admiral called out Communications Officer Kim Ji-woo, her voice cutting through the bridge chatter. We're picking up an alien distress signal. Park's eyes sharpened. Put it through. The desperate voice of Captain Veltar filled the bridge, speaking in the universal trade language. His words painted a picture of disaster, a dying ship, failing systems, and thousands of innocent civilians facing death in the cold of space. The bridge fell silent. These humans had fought in wars that lasted decades. They had seen planets burn and civilizations fall. But there was something about the pure desperation in the alien captain's voice that touched something deep inside them. "Sir," said Lieutenant Choi Minji quietly, "the signal is coming from Zephyrian space. They're herbivores, completely peaceful. No weapons, no military." Park stood slowly, his decision already made. Change course. Full speed toward their position. But Admiral and other officer protested, "We're humans. They'll be terrified of us. Every species in the galaxy knows what we're capable of." Park looked out at the stars ahead. Then maybe it's time they learned what we're really capable of. The Iron Fist turned toward the distress signal, followed by 11 other human warships. The Deathworlder fleet was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Park Min-ho stood before the massive tactical display in the Iron Fist's war room, his experienced eyes scanning the alien vessel's specifications. The holographic image showed a ship unlike any human design, curved and elegant, built for peace rather than war. Commander Kim Gi-woo pulled up detailed scans alongside him, her fingers dancing across the control interface. "The Zephyrians are completely defenseless," Kim explained, highlighting the ship's structure. "No weapons, no shields, no armor plating. Their hull is made from some kind of biometal that's actually grown rather than manufactured. It's beautiful, but it wouldn't stop a single missile." Park nodded grimly. In human space, such a ship would be considered suicide. But the Zephyrians had never known war the way humans did. They had evolved on a world where the biggest threat was bad weather, not predators that hunted in packs. 50,000 civilians, Park murmured, reading the numbers again, including families and children. Lieutenant Lee Hoon-hwa shifted uncomfortably at his station. He was young, maybe 25, but he'd already seen 3 major battles. His instinct screamed danger. "Admiral, this could be a trap. The hegemony has been known to use fake distress signals to lure ships into ambushes. Other officers around the room nodded in agreement. The hegemony was a collection of aggressive alien species that had been expanding their territory through conquest and deception. They were cunning, ruthless, and had no problem sacrificing innocent lives to achieve their goals. The signal could be fake, added intelligence officer Yoon So-jin, pulling up her own data. The hegemony has captured Zephyrian ships before. They could be using one as bait. Park listened to his officer's concerns, but his gut told him otherwise. He had heard genuine terror in Captain Veltar's voice, the kind of fear that couldn't be faked. More importantly, he had heard something else, the desperate love of a leader trying to save his people. Sir Kim continued, even if this is real, we need to consider the political implications. Humans entering Zephyrian space uninvited could be seen as an act of war. The Galactic Council already views us as dangerous aggressors. Park walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars ahead. The rest of the galaxy saw humans as monsters from a death world, beings so violent and unpredictable that they were barely tolerated in civilized space. Every diplomatic meeting was filled with barely concealed fear. Other species watched humans the way prey animals watched predators. "What's our current fleet composition?" Park asked. 12 ships total, reported Lieutenant Choi Minji from her station. The destroyers Storm's Edge and Void Hunter are leading the flanks. We have 4 heavy cruisers, 3 frigates, and 2 support vessels. Full combat readiness across all ships. The room fell silent as Park considered his options. This was exactly the kind of situation that could spark an interstellar incident. If they responded and it was a trap, they could lose ships and crews. Innocent beings died. He would never forgive himself. "Fleet communications," Park said finally, his voice carrying the authority of command. "Signal all ships. We're changing course to respond to the distress call. Full speed to Zephyrian space." "Sir." Lee protested one more time. "The risks are acceptable." Park cut him off. "We didn't become the Deathworlder fleet by running from risks. We became it by doing what's right, regardless of the consequences." The bridge of the Harmony's dream erupted in chaos as the sensor readings came through. 12 massive signatures. "We're approaching at incredible speed. Their energy patterns unlike anything in the Galactic Peacekeeping Union's database." Captain Veltar's 4 eyes widened in horror as his communications officer confirmed what they all feared most. "Captain," the younger Zephyrian whispered, his voice shaking, "the computer has identified the ships. They're human vessels. Deathworlder fleet." The bridge fell silent, except for the emergency alarm still blaring throughout the ship. Every Zephyrian had heard the stories, whispered tales of humanity's rise from their death world, of wars that lasted decades, of entire species that had simply vanished after encountering human forces. Veltar's hands trembled as he accessed the Galactic database. The files on humanity were marked with the highest danger warnings. These beings came from a world where the gravity alone would crush most aliens, where the weather could kill in minutes, and where every creature was either a predator or prey. The humans had not just survived this nightmare world, they had thrived on it. "Sir," his first officer said quietly, "what do we do?" Before Veltar could answer, the ship's internal communication system crackled to life. Word was spreading through the civilian quarters, and the reaction was immediate and terrifying. Screams echoed through the corridors as families realized what was approaching their helpless vessel in the family quarters. Mothers pulled their younglings close, their large eyes filled with tears. The children didn't understand why their parents were so afraid. They could feel the terror radiating from every adult around them. Some families huddled together in their quarters, while others ran through the corridors as if movement itself could save them. "The humans are coming," someone cried out. "They're going to take us all." The stories every Zephyrian child knew began flooding back to them. Tales of human soldiers who fought without fear, who could survive wounds that would kill any other species, who showed no mercy to their enemies. They had heard about the Human Krex War, where humanity had driven an entire aggressive species to the edge of extinction in just 5 years. "They eat meat," whispered an elderly Zephorian to his grandson. "They consume the flesh of other living beings." "What do you think they'll do to us?" Captain Veltar tried to restore order, but panic had taken hold. His people were herbivores, peaceful by nature, with no concept of the kind of violence humans were capable of. Their worst conflicts had been trade disputes or arguments over farming rights. They had never faced predators, never experienced war, never even imagined the brutality that other species took for granted. "Please," Veltar announced over the ship's communication system. Everyone remained calm. "We don't know their intentions." But even as he spoke the words, he didn't believe them himself. The human fleet was still approaching, and their ship was completely defenseless. They had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back or escape. The engine failure had left them floating helplessly in space, waiting for whatever fate the humans had planned for them. In the medical bay, Dr. Kethel tried to prepare for the worst. She had no idea what humans might do to captured Zephyrians, but she gathered what medical supplies she could. Her hands shook as she worked, knowing that her peaceful healing knowledge would be useless against the legendary efficiency of human warfare. The countdown to contact continued, and with each passing moment, the terror aboard the Harmony's Dream grew stronger. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory, their engines glowing bright blue against the starfield. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Iron Fist, watching the tactical display update with new contacts. What he saw made his jaw clench in anger. "Hegemony ships," reported Commander Kim Ju-woo, her voice tight with disgust. 15 vessels, in a loose blockade formation, are positioned directly between us and the Zephyrian distress signal. Park studied the enemy formation on his screen. The Hegemony ships were brutal, angular designs built for intimidation and quick strikes. These weren't explorers or traders. They were raiders, the kind of scum that preyed on peaceful species throughout the galaxy. They had been terrorizing Zephyrian trade routes for months, stealing cargo and demanding tribute from ships that had no way to fight back. "They're hailing us, Admiral," Kim announced. "Put them through." The screen flickered to life, showing the scarred face of a Hegemony captain. His reptilian features were twisted into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Behind him, his bridge crew snarled and hissed at the sight of the humans. "Human vessels." The alien captain spoke in broken universal language. "You are trespassing in Hegemony space. Turn back now, or face the consequences." Park's expression remained stone-cold. "This is Zephyrian space, not yours. We're responding to a distress signal." The alien captain laughed, a harsh sound that grated on human ears. "The Zephyrian ship is ours by right of salvage. Any cargo, any survivors, belong to us now. Leave, or we will destroy you." "I don't think so," Park replied quietly, and cut the transmission. Throughout the human fleet, weapon systems came online. The Asterisk Storm's Edge, commanded by Captain Seo Jinwoo, moved into attack position alongside the Void Hunter Asterisk. These destroyers were built for one purpose: to destroy enemy ships quickly and efficiently. "All ships park," announced over the fleet channel. "Weapons free. Clear the path to the Zephyrian vessel. Show them what happens when they threaten innocent civilians." The Hegemony captain had made a fatal mistake. He had assumed that 15 ships could intimidate 12 human vessels. He had never faced humans in combat before, never experienced the cold precision of human warfare. Captain Seo's voice crackled over the communications. "Channel from the Storm's Edge. Target locked on lead Hegemony vessel, firing plasma cannons." The human attack was swift and devastating. Plasma bolts tore through space, striking the Hegemony ships with pinpoint accuracy. The aliens had expected a prolonged battle, time to use their superior numbers. Instead, they found themselves facing weapons that could punch through their armor like paper. 3 enemy ships down, reported Lieutenant Choi Min-ji from her weapons station. The rest are breaking formation. The Hegemony had built their reputation on terrorizing defenseless traders and weak civilian vessels. They had never faced an opponent that could fight back with equal brutality. Their ships scattered as human weapons found their targets again and again. "This is impossible," the Hegemony captain screamed over the open channel. "How can so few ships?" His transmission cut off as the Void Hunter's missiles found their mark. His ship exploded in a brilliant flash, taking his threats with it. Within minutes, the blockade was broken. 7 hegemony ships had been destroyed, and the remaining 8 fled into hyperspace. Their crews telling stories of human efficiency that would spread fear throughout their territory. "Path is clear, Admiral," Captain Seo reported. "No enemy contacts remaining." Park nodded grimly. "Good work. Now, let's go save some lives." The human fleet surrounded the dying Zephyrian ship like protective guardians, their massive hulls casting shadows over the elegant curves of the Harmony's Dream. Captain Veltar stood frozen on his bridge, watching the tactical display with growing confusion. The humans weren't firing. They weren't demanding surrender. Instead, their ships had formed a perfect defensive perimeter around his vessel. "Captain," his communications officer whispered, "they're requesting permission to board." Veltar's 4 hands shook as he considered his options. He had expected death, slavery, or worse. But the human transmission was polite, almost formal. They were asking permission, not demanding it. What kind of predators asked permission from their prey? "Permission granted," he said finally, his voice barely audible. The first human shuttle approached the Harmony's Dream with surprising care. The pilot navigated around the damaged hull sections, avoiding the weakened areas that might collapse under the shuttle's weight. Through the viewport, Veltar could see humans inside the craft, but they weren't carrying weapons. Instead, they had toolboxes and medical supplies. Chief Engineer Choi Minji was the first human to step aboard the alien vessel. She was smaller than most humans, barely reaching the shoulder of the towering Zephyrians, but she moved with quiet confidence. Her engineering team followed behind her, their equipment cases in hand. "Where are your main power systems?" she asked Captain Veltar, in perfect universal language. The Zephyrian captain stared at her in amazement. This human, this supposed monster, from a death world, was asking about repairs, not conquest, not surrender, repairs. "The power core is 3 decks down," he stammered. "But the damage is too severe. Our engineers said it would take weeks to fix, and we don't have weeks." Choi smiled, the expression surprisingly warm on her human features. "Look, we humans are pretty good at fixing things that seem impossible." As the engineering team disappeared into the ship's lower levels, more human shuttles arrived. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin emerged from the second shuttle with a full medical team. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with gentle eyes that seemed completely at odds with humanity's fearsome reputation. "I'm here to help your wounded," she announced to the gathered Zephyrians. "May I see your medical bay?" The aliens led her through corridors filled with frightened civilians. Children peeked out from behind their parents, their large eyes wide with curiosity rather than fear. Dr. Yoon moved slowly, carefully, making sure not to startle anyone with sudden movements in the medical bay. She found dozens of injured Zephyrians. The ship's doctor, Dr. Kethel, watched nervously as the human examined the wounded. But instead of the brutality she had expected, Dr. Yoon worked with incredible gentleness. "This one has internal bleeding," she explained to Dr. Kethel, pointing to a young Zephyrian. "But it's treatable. I can show you how to stop it using human techniques, adapted for your physiology." Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out. Human technicians worked alongside Zephyrian engineers, their hands moving with practiced precision around delicate alien systems. They asked questions, listened to explanations, and treated every piece of equipment with respect. "Your ship is beautiful," one human engineer told his Zephyrian counterpart. "This biometal technology is incredible. It's like the ship is alive." The Zephyrian's fear began to fade, replaced by pride in his work. These humans weren't the monsters from the stories. They were professionals, skilled and respectful, working to save lives rather than take them. Within hours, the impossible was happening. The Harmony's Dream was coming back to life. The corridors of the Harmony's Dream had transformed from chambers of terror into spaces of wonder. Young Zephyrian children, their initial fear forgotten, now followed human crew members with wide-eyed curiosity. Their parents watched nervously from doorways, still unsure about these strange beings from the Deathworld communications. Officer Han Jun-ho sat cross-legged on the floor of the ship's common area, surrounded by a dozen Zephyrian younglings. His portable music player rested between them, filling the air with soft melodies from Earth. The children's large eyes reflected the device's glowing display as they listened to sounds they had never imagined. This is called a lullaby, Han explained, his voice gentle and patient. Human parents sing these songs to help their children sleep. One brave youngling, barely reaching Han's knee, stepped closer. Your world has music for sleeping? Our parents? Tell us stories about the growing seasons and the harvest moons. Han smiled, pulling up another song on his device. We have stories too. And we have music for working, for celebrating, for when we're sad or happy. Music helps humans express feelings that are too big for words. The melody that emerged was different, more complex, with instruments the Zephyrians had never heard. A violin sang over gentle piano notes, creating something beautiful and haunting. The alien children swayed unconsciously to the rhythm there. Natural grace, making the movement look like a dance. It's so beautiful, whispered a young Zephyrian girl, but also sad. Why do humans make sad music? Han thought carefully about his answer. Sometimes sad things happen, even to humans. Music helps us remember that we're not alone in our feelings. When we're sad, we can listen to sad music and know that someone else understood that feeling well enough to create something beautiful from it. In the medical bay, Dr. Kim Daeon worked alongside the ship's physician. Dr. Kethel, the human doctor, had been adapting her techniques for Zephyrian physiology. But the conversation had expanded far beyond medical procedures. Your people live. So long, Kim observed, reviewing the patient files. Some of these Zephyrians are over 300 years old. What do you do with all that time? Dr. Kethel's 4 arms moved gracefully as she prepared medications. We grow things. We learn. Create art that takes decades to complete. We raise younglings and watch them become wise. What do humans do with their shorter lives? We pack everything we can into the time we have, Kim replied. We love fiercely. We work hard. We try to leave something good behind for the next generation. Maybe that's why other species find us so intense. We don't have time to waste. The Zephyrian doctor paused in her work. The stories we heard about, humans spoke of violence and conquest. They never mentioned that you create music or heal the sick, or sit patiently with frightened children. Kim's expression grew serious. We can be violent when we need to protect what we love. But that's not all we are. We're also teachers, artists, healers, and dreamers. We just don't often get the chance to show that side to the galaxy. In another part of the ship, Engineer Choi Mingi was explaining human technology to a group of fascinated Zephyrian technicians. Her hands moved over their biometal systems with reverence, treating each component like a work of art rather than mere machinery. Your ship isn't just built, she said in amazement. It's grown. How do you convince the metal to take these shapes? We sing to it, one Zephyrian engineer replied. Different songs for different purposes. This is a song of strength, this one of flexibility. Choi listened intently as the alien demonstrated, his voice creating harmonies that seemed to resonate with the ship itself. For the first time, humans and Zephyrians were learning from each other. The bridge of the Iron Fist erupted in controlled chaos, as the long-range sensors painted a terrifying picture. Lieutenant Choi Minji's voice cut through the tension as she read the incoming data, her usual calm shattered by the magnitude of what they were facing. Admiral, I'm reading massive hyperspace signatures approaching our position. 200 ships, sir. It's the entire Hegemony 7th Fleet, Admiral. Park felt his blood run cold. The 7th Fleet was the Hegemony's hammer, their go-to force for crushing resistance and making examples of anyone who dared oppose them. They had wiped out entire colonies, turned thriving worlds into ash and rubble, and now they were coming. For revenge? Time to contact? Park asked, his voice steady, despite the circumstances. 18 hours, sir. Maybe less if they push their engines hard. Park turned to the tactical display, watching the red dots multiply as more enemy ships dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge. 200 ships versus 12. The math was brutal, but it wasn't the first time humans had faced impossible odds. Status on the Zephyrian repairs, asked Chief Engineer Choi Mingi over the communication channel. Her voice crackled back from the alien ship. We're making good progress, Admiral, but we need at least 48 hours to get their engines fully operational. The damage was worse than we initially thought. Park closed his eyes for a moment, running calculations in his head. 18 hours until the hegemony fleet arrived. 48 hours needed for repairs. The math was simple and devastating. They couldn't outrun their enemies, and they couldn't abandon 50,000 innocent civilians to certain death. "Sir," Commander Kim Ji-woo said quietly, "we could evacuate some of the Zephyrians to our ships. Maybe save a few thousand. Few thousand out of 50,000, Park replied grimly. What about the rest? Children, the elderly, the ones? We can't fit in our cargo holds. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Everyone knew what Admiral Park was considering. They had all sworn an oath to protect innocent life, but this time, that oath might cost them everything. Captain Veltar's image appeared on the main screen, his 4 eyes filled with desperate determination. Admiral Park, my people and I have been discussing the situation. We want to help in the battle. Our ship has no weapons, but we can serve. As support, carry wounded, or absolutely not, Park cut him off. Captain, I appreciate your courage, but you're civilians. Your job is to stay alive and take care of your people. Let us handle the fighting. But Admiral Veltar protested, these humans came to help us. How can we stand by and watch them die for our sake? Park's expression softened slightly, because that's what we do, Captain. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Not about glory or honor, it's about doing what's right. Throughout the human fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Crew members contacted their families on distant worlds, recorded messages they hoped would never need to be sent, and prepared for a battle that would likely be their last. All ship captains, Park announced over the fleet channel. Prepare for defensive positions around the Zephyrian vessel. We're going to buy them time to complete repairs and escape. This is what we trained for, people. This is why we wear the uniform. The human fleet began moving into battle formation. 12 ships against 200. The odds were impossible, but they were human. And humans had never been good at accepting impossible odds. The hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace. Like a swarm of angry hornets, their ships spreading across the starfield in a massive attack formation. Admiral Park watched from the bridge of the Iron Fist as the enemy vessels began their approach, their hulls gleaming with weapon systems designed for one purpose: total destruction. 212 ships confirmed, reported Lieutenant Choi Minji, her voice tight with tension. They're moving into attack formation. It's multiple battleships, dozens of cruisers, and over 100 fighters. Park activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Park. Remember, we're not here to win. We're here to buy time. Every minute we hold them back is another minute for the Zephyrians to escape. The first wave of enemy fighters screamed toward the human formation, their weapons charging with deadly energy. But the humans were ready. The Storm's Edge and Void Hunter opened fire simultaneously, their plasma cannons lighting up space like deadly fireworks. Fighter after fighter exploded in brilliant flashes, but more kept coming. Direct hit on the Courage, Kim reported. They're venting atmosphere from decks 4 and 5. Tell them to fall back to secondary position, Park ordered. We can't afford to lose any ships early. Captain Seo Jinwoo's voice crackled over the communication channel from the Asterisk storms. Edge Asterisk, Admiral. We're taking heavy fire from 3 hegemony battleships. Our shields are down to 30%. Hold position, Captain, Park replied. We need to keep them away from the Harmony's Dream. The battle raged for hours, with the human fleet using every trick they had learned in decades of warfare. They used asteroid fields for cover, coordinated their attacks with precision timing, and fought with the desperate ferocity that only humans could muster when protecting innocent lives. But the numbers were overwhelming. The Defiant took a direct hit from a hegemony battleship, her hull splitting open like a flower. Her crew of 200 died instantly, but not before launching every missile they had at the enemy formation. The Sentinel is losing power, Kim reported. They're drifting toward the enemy line. Park watched helplessly as another human ship fell to the enemy guns. 12 ships had become 10, then 8, then 6. Each loss represented hundreds of human lives. But still they fought on. Captain Seo's Storm's Edge had positioned itself directly between the largest enemy battleship and the Harmony's Dream. The destroyer was taking incredible punishment, her hull glowing red from repeated hits, but she refused to move. "Captain CO, your ship is critically damaged," Park called out. "You need to pull back." "Negative, Admiral," came the reply. "Not moving until that Zephyrian ship is safe." The Storm's Edge continued to fight, her weapons blazing even as her systems failed one by one. Her sacrifice was buying precious time, but everyone knew it couldn't last much longer. Then, like a miracle, Chief Engineer Choi Minji's voice came over the communication channel from the Harmony's Dream. "Admiral, we've got engine power. The Zephyrians are ready to jump to hyperspace. Do it now," Park ordered. "Get them out of here." The massive Zephyrian colony ship began to move, her engines glowing with renewed life. As she accelerated toward the hyperspace jump point, Captain Veltar's voice filled the communication channel. "Admiral Park, we will never forget what you've done for us. Your sacrifice will be remembered for generations." The Harmony's Dream vanished into hyperspace, carrying 50,000 grateful souls to safety. The humans had done their job, but at a terrible cost. The aftermath of the battle left space littered with debris from both human and hegemony ships. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Iron Fist, watching the rescue shuttles search for survivors among the wreckage. Of his original 12 ships, only 5 remained operational. The cost had been devastating, but 50,000 innocent lives had been saved. "Final casualty reports," Admiral Commander Kim Ju-woo said quietly, her voice heavy with grief. "We lost 7 ships and 1,500 crew members. The Storm's Edge managed to save most of her crew before the hull breach, but Captain SEO is in critical condition." "Right." Park nodded grimly. Each number represented a human life, someone's son or daughter, husband or wife. These people had died, protecting strangers they had never met, aliens who had once feared them as monsters. It was both heartbreaking and inspiring. Sir Lieutenant Choi Minji called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the Harmony's Dream, requesting permission to return to our position." Park frowned. The Zephyrians were safe now, far from the battle zone. Ow! Why would they? Want to come back to this graveyard of ships? "Put them through," he ordered. Captain Veltar's image appeared on the main screen, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood dozens of other Zephyrians, their faces filled with determination rather than fear. These were the colony ship's leaders, representatives of the 50,000 souls the humans had saved. Admiral Park Veltar began, his voice stronger than Park had ever heard it. "We have returned to make an offer. Our people have voted unanimously on this decision." Park raised an eyebrow. "What kind of offer, Captain?" "An alliance," Veltar said simply. "A formal treaty between the Zephyrian Coalition and humanity. We propose mutual defense, shared technology, and open trade between our species." The bridge of the Iron Fist fell silent. This was unprecedented in galactic history. The Zephyrians were one of the most respected, peaceful species in the galaxy, with influence far beyond their military power. An alliance with them would change everything for humanity. "Captain," Park said carefully, "are you certain about this? The galaxy sees humans as dangerous aggressors. Allying with us could damage your reputation with other species." "Altar?" Expression grew firm. "Admiral, we have seen what humans truly are. Yes, you are warriors, but you are also protectors. You risked everything to save strangers, expected nothing in return, and showed incredible respect for our culture and our people. The galaxy needs to know the truth about humanity." Another Zephyrian stepped forward, Dr. Kethel, the ship's physician. "Your Dr. Kim Daeon taught us new healing techniques that will save countless lives. Your engineers shared their knowledge freely. Your soldiers played music with our children. These are not the actions of monsters." Park felt emotion welling up in his chest. For decades, humanity had been isolated, feared, and mistrusted by the galactic community. They had been forced to rely on military strength because no one would offer them friendship. Now, for the first time, someone was extending a hand. "The Zephyrian Coalition has influence with over 40 species," Veltar continued. "We will tell them what we have witnessed. We will tell them that humans are not the monsters from their nightmares, but potential allies who risk everything To protect innocent life. Admiral Kim whispered, "This could change everything. No more isolation, no more being treated as galactic pariahs." Ark straightened in his command chair. "Captain Veltar, on behalf of humanity, I accept your offer of alliance. Perhaps it's time the galaxy learned what humans are really capable of when we're not fighting for survival." The wrong hands that had received the distress signal had, indeed, become the right hands to forge a new future among the stars.